Politics. This is the show where you can ask me anything that you like about politics, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. I know. Whoa, shit, I forgot one of my microphones. Oy. All right, welcome everybody to Ask Me Anything About Politics. My name is Jared. I'm here to answer all your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, be they left wing or right wing. Everybody is welcome here, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, something in the middle, or something on the outskirts. Tamo Sari says some countries may ease Russia sanctions for oil because the Strait of Hormuz is risky. Thoughts? I mean, it is unbelievably stupid and a big self own on America that one of our intentions over the past couple of years was to inflict financial pain on Vladimir Putin because of his illegal invasion of Ukraine. And the fact that we are sort of like relieving that pressure for what? Because we're doing a stupid fucking war in Iran that is not going to help Americans at all. It's not going to help the Iranian citizens at all. Like, yeah, it's so fucking dumb. It's such a fucking cell phone. Okay, Jackson, what's your opinion on the war in Iran? Stupid, reckless, poorly planned, no, no clear, uh, actionable victory. Like, there's just nothing good about it. Anything Debating says, do you think we should make Puerto Rico a state? If the people who live in Puerto Rico want it, then yes, 100%. Welcome, everybody. Excellent first questions. Thank you, Anything Debating, Tamo, and Jackson. Welcome to Ask Me Anything About Politics. My name is Jared Berenstein. I am here to answer all your questions about politics, be they left wing or right wing, be they simple or complicated. Politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. So, this is the show where you can ask all the questions that you don't want to ask people in person because you're worried that people might think that you are uninformed or did not learn this stuff when you were supposed to in high school. There's no judgments here. There's no roasting. There's no debating. There's no harassing. There's no bullying. I know there's a lot of very popular shows out there where Republicans and Democrats yell at each other. That is not what we do here on this show. If you are somebody who disagrees with me politically, you will find a a place here where you can engage in good faith on the substance, as opposed to other shows where people will yell at you and call you a fascist or whatever. Testicle says, "Who's your favorite fascist?" There's no favorite fascist. They're all terrible. PTRK Cole says, "Why is it that liberal men just come across as whiny women?" I do not believe that that is accurate. PTRK, would you like to ask a good question, or are you only here to cast aspersions on people on the left? Let me know. To everybody else, welcome. This is Ask Me Anything About Politics. You can ask me anything that you like, and I will do my best to answer your question as objectively as humanly possible. There's a lot of misinformation and propaganda out there, and so this is the show where you can ask all your questions about what's actually going on, and hopefully we can all have a shared understanding, a shared reality, because if we can't even agree on what's going on, then how can we agree on what the solutions to these problems are? Noah says, do you agree religions should stay out of politics? I do. Separation of church and state, First Amendment, freedom of religion, etc. Daniel says, what is your opinion of Laszlo Torokais? I don't know who that is. Lovely says, why don't you let anyone up? Because this is not a debate show. Fletch lives again. Great to see you again. Says a fix for a ceasefire by 331 is on Polymarket. Ooh, I'd be interested in seeing who bets on that and how much money goes in there. Anything Debating says, I see Gavin Newsom as a corporate Democrat, but I'm willing to hear some good things that he's done. Why do you support him? I mean, I support him more than I support every Republican candidate, but he's not my candidate for the primary. If you would like me to tell you some good things that he's done, I happen to have a list. Where is it? I can't really find my list right now, though. Where are you? Where are you? Let's see here. Maybe it's poverty? Nope. Oh, yeah, I don't seem to be able to find it at the moment, but I'll get you. I'll get you. God damn, yeah. Yeah, I don't know why it's not coming up, man. But yeah, I'll have to find it for you some other time. Apologies about that. Lovely says, ask me anything about politics, lol, but it's not a debate. Yeah, what in that title suggests that it is a debate? Wiener Cat says, behind closed doors, both parties essentially function the same. That is wildly inaccurate, Wiener Cat. I am happy to go into more details if you like. Prod Adam Smet says, was Hitler good? No, he was not. Oscar, great to see you again. What's your opinion on Cuba's economic and democratic systems? That's not really my area of expertise, Oscar. I am aware that the Cuban government does some things good for their citizens. I am also aware that they have violated human rights, and so yeah, definitely, I'm not going to advocate for the government, even though I'm sure that somebody could tell me that there are some things that they do better than America. Lady K. Shoot, good to see you again. Says, who would you like to see in the primaries? Oh, I like Chris Murphy. That's my number one. Lovely says, okay, then let people up to have discussion, Lord. No, thank you. Anything debating says, who is worse, Trump or Hitler? Oh, I don't know. They're both pretty bad. A lot of similarities between those two. Chris Lamont says, both parties are for war for the rich and surveillance. That is inaccurate, Chris. Would you like me to go into more details? I'm happy to. Lauren, great to see you again, says, Am says, thoughts on Britain's prime minister? I wonder if the UK has the same problem that we have here in America, where we judge left wing politicians way harder than we judge right wing politicians. So I'm sure that Keir Starmer has made some mistakes. I wonder if those mistakes would be easier to gloss over if he was a right wing politician. I wonder if people in the UK don't give any grace to Labour or the Greens. It's not my area of expertise, though. Chris Lamont says they both push the Patriot Act. Wow, we're going all the way back to the early 2000s for examples of why the parties are the exact same. All right, so the Democratic Party would not have started a war in Iran. The Democratic Party did not start either of the wars in the Middle East. The Democratic Party increases taxes for the rich. The Republican Party decreases taxes for the rich. The Democratic Party is forwarding legislation to cut down on the surveillance states. The Republican Party has given more fuel to the surveillance state. Chris Lamont. All right. Diddy B. Cud says, what do you think about Donald Trump? One of the biggest pieces of shit on the planet. Happy to go into more detail if you like. AM says the left and right don't like Starmer. Well, the left and the right both did not like Biden. That's the thing, is that the right gets in line and the left criticizes their own. So it's really difficult for left-wing politicians, both in America and the UK, it appears, to actually have high approval ratings. So for some reason, I got reported for harassment and bullying on TikTok, which is really strange. I would love to know who did that, because I have no fucking idea what I possibly could have said that would have instigated that. Is it because I called Trump a piece of shit? He's not here, you know. Anything debating says, okay, I'm super liberal, but Obama did commit war crimes. Yeah, I'm not going to argue against that. Anything debating. I will say that there was the Obama administration did not want to do war crimes. They tried not to do war crimes. The Trump administration doesn't give a shit about doing war crimes. They're doing war crimes on purpose. Diddy K. Bud says, what do you think about the Pedro Sanchez party? I know anything about it. Some dude says, is there a possibility of Democrats taking the Senate and the House? There is, but we have to do the work. AM says, who do you think did 9/11? Osama bin Laden. Ivan Cisco says, did you see that California has a high chance of getting a Republican governor? At the moment, yeah, because there are too many Democrats in the race splitting the vote. But I would say that it is likely that some of those Democrats will drop out, and hopefully we will see that changing. KY Jig says, what about Trump's border peace? How corrupt, and can it be stopped? Very corrupt, and yes, it can be stopped. Raymond says, do you think the Black Panther Party helped? I think the Black Panther Party, and I'm not a historian, so this is me just shooting from the hip here. It appears as though they were heavily involved in community organizing and helping to feed people. So yes, they did help in that way. They also were kind of like aggressively militant and armed themselves and got into armed standoffs with the police that were either just or unjust, depending on your view of things. And I wonder how easy it was for people to demagogue the civil rights movement because of the actions of the Black Panthers. So yeah, TBD on that. Whether it was a net positive or net negative, I think is anybody's guess. I'm gonna have to restart. I'm gonna have to stop and restart my live on TikTok, everybody. So if you're watching on TikTok, come right back. If you were enjoying the show. All right, Ecuadorian, great to see you again. Says America is back at it, bombing my home city. They destroyed not only our dairy farm, but my home and my neighbors. I'm really sorry to hear that, Ecuadorian. That is fucking impossibly monstrous of them. I desperately hope that that America can get our act together, and vote for better politicians in the future. Welcome, everybody, to Ask Me Anything About Politics. My name is Jarrett, and I'm here to answer all of your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, be you left-wing or right-wing. What's up, Lauren? Great to see you again. Ecuadorian says, there's evidence all over Twitter. There's pictures. Oh, I'm not doubting that it happened, Ecuadorian. Diddy B. Cud, thank you for returning. Do you think that the price of gas and goods and houses and homelessness in the USA is because of Trump? Yes. I would say it's not exclusively because of Trump. I think that some of this fault goes to the Republican Party at large. There are definitely some Democrats who are culpable as well, but largely it is the fault of Trump and the Republican Party. And I'm happy to go into more detail on that if you like. Welcome, everybody. Excellent questions so far. My name is Jared. I'm here to answer all your questions about politics. Georgia, great to see you again. My old stand-up buddy, sending pics of gas prices to my MAGA dad every time I refuel. How long till I'm cut out of the will? If it hasn't happened already, Georgia, I will be shocked and surprised. Diddy says, in Spain, because of Trump, the gas is going high. Gas is going high everywhere because of Trump. He's a fucking monster. All right, let's see here. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Ask Me Anything About Politics. My name is Jared. I'm here to answer all your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, be they left-wing or right-wing. Everybody is welcome here, whether you are a Democrat or Republican, something in the middle or something on the outskirts. I am not here to judge you because of your political beliefs. I am only here to engage in good faith on the substance. What's up, me who? Tanner Darrow says, can we get Schumer out at the midterms? So I do not believe he is up for re-election in the midterms, but it is possible that if Democrats, I mean, we can do this whether Democrats take the Senate or not. If you call your Democratic senator and you tell them that you don't like Schumer as, Democratic leader in the Senate, then they will vote for a different leader in the Senate. If you want him out of government entirely, I believe that happens in 28. And I don't know if that's 100% necessary. I just think he should be speaker anymore. If you talk to people within the government, they will probably tell you that he's like extremely savvy and very good at whipping votes and stuff like that. But he is not the messenger that we need in that position at this time. So yeah, call your reps. I've already called my senators and told them that I think we should have a different speaker. I've called my House member and told them that I think we need a different speaker. I think we need a different minority leader than Hakeem Jeffries. So yeah, do it. Alex Lopez is a viewer from the UK. Who would you vote for, either Labour or the Greens? Mihu says, what do you think about NATO? NATO is proving the value of its existence right now because Russia is engaged in an illegal invasion of Ukraine. We wouldn't need NATO if Russia didn't try to invade its neighbors. Oi, Volsi Destine. Thoughts on Jasmine Crockett losing the primary? I like Jasmine Crockett a lot. That was always going to be a tight race because her and Tallarico were both excellent candidates. I think Tallarico's probably got a better chance of winning the Senate seat in Texas. But I think they're both great candidates. Jeff says Dems complaining about ICE, but many Democrats didn't vote. Yeah, Jeff. I also find it very frustrating that there were so many Democrats who didn't vote in 24, even though it was clear that all of this shit was probably going to happen. And so I would hope that you and I are both parts of reaching out to those voters, not to shame them, but to just encourage them to not surrender their voice so easily in the past, as they have in the past. Jeff says, should have voted for Harris. Trump literally said what he would do. I completely agree with that, Jeff. I don't think that we make any headway by shaming people. I think that we give people a golden parachute to admit they were wrong and be better going forward. John Abbott, good to see you again, says, regardless of left wing or right wing, do you prefer drums or flats? I find them both. I find them equally okay. I'm not really a wings guy, but I do find them equally okay. Maybe I might go. Maybe I have a slight preference for flats. Ecuadorian says, imagine if Ecuador took shots at Las Vegas, America would lose its mind. Yeah, I mean, there's no arguments here, man. Righty. Jeff says, I don't want to shame, but people need to grow up and think like fucking adults. Yeah, I generally agree with that, Jeff. But again, we need to meet people where they are. We need to build a coalition, and what we don't build a coalition by finger wagging and blaming. Volsey says, do you think John Ossoff would run in 28? Oh, I've got no idea. Muzz King, Triska, and Aaron Gregory, thank you so much for helping me reach my first gift goal of the day. CS says, do you think calling it boneless chicken wings is fake news? I suppose, but I do like them. What would you call them? Chicken fingers? A says, thoughts on Israel. The country of Israel is beautiful and full of great people. The government of Israel are fucking monsters, war criminals, and genocidal maniacs. I would hope that the people of Israel would be smart enough to vote for different leadership, because the Netanyahu coalition is doing war crimes. They are enabling people to do illegal settlements in the West Bank. They are doing nothing but inflame tensions in the region. They are making life more dangerous for everybody there, whether you are in Lebanon or Israel or Palestine or Iran. The Netanyahu government is psychotic, and I desperately hope that Israel gets its act together and votes for different people. Et Torre Oleg says, is Trump just for the money? Yes, 100%. Mikael says, thoughts on Sweden? I know almost nothing about it. Gibby says, Chapter 5, page 159, ICE take over airports from TSA. Is that in Project 25? Oscar says, do you think Otto von Bismarck's social system was a good decision considering the workers' movement? That question is way over my head, Oscar. So sorry. Anything Debating says, would you vote me for president? I don't know anything about you, Anything Debating, so probably not. Volsey says, thoughts on the changes at CBS. It is clear that the Trump administration has been using their power to enforce a more right-wing propaganda narrative agenda on as many media organizations as they possibly can, including social media. And I think that people shouldn't watch. I think that is one of the ways that we fight back, is that we stop watching CBS. We stop watching Fox News. We stop going to Breitbart. We stop going to the Daily Wire. We stop watching OAN. We stop watching America First, or whatever that news organization is called, One America News. Gibby says, billionaires overtaking media needs to stop. 100% agree. Mike Green says, they are manipulating all aspects of media. That is 100% accurate. Johnny21 says, stop watching CNN. Completely agree. Mike Green says, they may manipulate less with others, or they may just manipulate themselves to stay out of trouble. Don't really know what that means. Luke says, are you a Republican or a Democrat? I'm a Democrat. Anything Debating says, do you think the Bible is racist and sexist? I think it's pretty obvious that it's sexist. I can't think of any examples of it being racist, but especially in the Old Testament, I think there's probably, very likely, some examples of racism in there. Karate Chop says, will we ever be able to stop the sale of our politicians? Yes, Karate Chop, we can. But I think it's important to recognize that the reason why it is so easy for billionaires to buy our politicians is because of changes enacted by the Republican Party. If we replaced every Republican in government with a Democrat, we could change the system lickety split. Jad says, why does the Democratic Party support the sanctions on Cuba? I don't know that they did. And it was the Obama administration that normalized relations with Cuba. D. Scott says, are you following the ties of T manipulating the market on truth so his buddies can make money on insider trading? I have 100%. I mean, it's just more of the same. It's more of the same corruption. It is more of the same insider trading and, crony capitalism. Mikael says, thoughts on Abraham Lincoln? Yeah, it seems like it was a pretty good president. Fletch lives again, says, absolute power corrupts absolutely. I mean, we're suggesting here with that comment, Fletch, that there was ever a moment when Trump was not insanely corrupt. Like, he was corrupt before he was president. Potentially, he was corrupt in the womb, insider trading off of his mother's ovaries. U.S. Doc says, will the third party ever make it to the big house? Only if we enact ranked choice voting, and the Republican Party will never enact it, so you should vote for Democrats if that is something that you like. 18 Schick Gruber says, thoughts on Mussolini? I don't know too much about him, but he seems like a bad guy from what I know. Anything Debating says, I made a video showing how the Bible is racist and sexist using quotes. Can you repost it? I'll check it out if you send me a DM and remind me. BitNevo says, California needs your help. Chad Bianco is trying to steal the governor's race. He seized ballots. Yes, I am extremely worried about that too. I wonder, though, if he is doing that specifically for the governor's race or if he's trying to undo the redistricting vote that happened last year. Regardless, it was inappropriate, illegal, very, very concerning. So 100%, everybody's got to get out there and vote for Katie Porter. Oh, right. Mikael says, who is the best Republican president? I mean, they've all been pretty shitty, but yeah. Karate Chop says, why do Democrats always do the bidding of Israel? Democrats don't always do the bidding of Israel, Karate Chop. If you are looking for the politicians who stand up to Israel, they are exclusively in the Democratic Party. If you're looking for the politicians that do not take money from AIPAC or stand up to AIPAC, they are exclusively in the Democratic Party. You will not find them in the Republican Party. Karate Chop says, name one. AOC, Mamdani, Bernie Sanders, Chris Murphy. I can go on. Mike Green says, did Reagan serve 2 terms? Yes, he did. Latub Online says, what religion are you? I do not celebrate any organized religion. S says, opinions on underground bioweapons labs in Ukraine. I do not know if that's a real thing. CS says, did you see they raised the enlistment age and eliminated discharge for gardening? Desperation move, question mark, 100%. I think it is evidence of a boots on the ground and an upcoming boots on the ground campaign where where they recognize that they're going to need more bodies for that war. Life of a Boy says, do you think Trump is a fascist or a dictator? So Life of a Boy, let me be 100% clear about this. It is not just that I think that Trump is a fascist or a dictator. He is. Like, experts, people who study fascism and dictatorships will tell you he is doing exactly what fascists and dictators do. I'm happy to go into more detail on that if you like. Fan to Wine says, what's the difference between socialism and communism? Everybody's going to give you a different definition of that. The way that I do it is I say communism is workers under the means of production. Socialism is when we all pay taxes and then use that money to buy things that we all need, like public schools and paved roads. Latub Online says, why is Netanyahu a bad leader? He's a war criminal. He's doing a genocide against the people of Palestine, and he's he strengthened Hamas. Like, he was funding Hamas through Qatar to create his own sort of like boogeyman, Miguel says, do you know any person that is like Charlie Kirk but is a Democrat? I mean, it depends on what you mean. Like, Charlie Kirk was a racist and a liar and a con artist. I don't think there's any Democrats that are like that. But if you're talking about people that engage and debate with college students, I think Destiny does that. I think there's a bunch of people that do that. HB 2004 says, what's your political stance? I'm a progressive Democrat. OT says, would Xi Jinping beat Trump in a slap contest? I think anybody would. Trump does not seem like he is physically capable of engaging any kind of physical altercation. Gibby says, CK is and was a piece of shit. Who's CK? Charlie Kirk. I mean, I don't want to say is because he's passed away, and I don't think that we should celebrate that. It was a political assassination And we should not be encouraging any kind of violence, political or otherwise. Let's Hop Online says, what had Charlie Kirk ever said that's racist? He said that if he had a black pilot, he would be worried. He would be worried about his flight landing safely. Maury says, who would be the next Democratic president? Newsom lost credibility for his California failure, and Kamala no. Brother, why are you not responding to my comments? It's pretty mild. I've been reading your comments, Maury. This is not a meritocracy. It's a lottery. I read the comments that I see, and sometimes when I have a lot of comments coming on, people's comments get skipped over. So I don't know who's going to be the next president, the next Democratic president. Newsom and Kamala will not be the people that I support in the primary, but if they win the primary, they 100% will be who I support in the general, because I guarantee you they will be better than whatever ding-dong the Republican Party puts up. Blazing Ink says, release the Epstein files. The Democratic Party has. Jules7719 says, do you think the Kirk shooting was Republican enacted? I have no idea. I don't really care about parsing out who's responsible for it so much as I am interested in not escalating political violence going forward. Tom O asks, what's your opinion on abortion? I am pro-choice, but even if you're pro-life, you should still vote for the Democratic Party, because Democrats actually decrease the number of abortions. Republican policies increase abortions and also make pregnancy more dangerous for women. Oliver, you are out of here. Congratulations. I do not truck with that kind of shit. Reform is racist. Okay, H2 says, what political party you for? Democrats. Gray Wolf says, who do most American citizens still not realize Zionists are their enemy? Gray Wolf, I think that's important that we stop using words like Zionist, because some people think that Zionist means just that the people who are currently living in Israel get to stay. Some people think that Zionist means that Israel gets to take over the entire Middle East. So I agree that the people that think that Israel should be able to take over the entire Middle East are not good people, and we should not be empowering that philosophy. But I also think that there are innocent civilians living in Israel who do not deserve to get ethnically cleansed out of Israel. Tabris says, Dems need to start controlling the messaging instead of only reacting. Honestly, I don't really truck with the narrative that Democrats are bad at messaging. I think they're perfectly acceptable at messaging, but the systems around messaging are sort of like rigged against them, shall we say. Women were made to bang, says host likes Trump. No, host no like Trump. My access was removed on TikTok again for misinformation. Do I agree with this decision? No. My live does not contain the content mentioned in the notice. Okay, submit. Yeah, these guys have been it was a bit of a mistake. We submit appeal. All right. God damn, is it frustrating that my lives are constantly being taken down by right-wing agitators? Boy, oh boy, that's frustrating. Okay, let's see here. Ecuadorian says, Ecuadorians like myself should occupy the Las Vegas Strip, send a message to the 34-count convicted felon and a justicated rapist, tell them either apologize or we stay. I do not have a lot of, let's just say I'm not going to advocate for that. I don't think that you'd be safe if you tried to do that. John Abbott says, did you see that since ICE isn't allowed to mask at airports and people are posting pictures of their faces on social media, some of them have been calling in sick? I'm very happy to hear that, John Abbott. People should 100% be putting pressure on their friends and neighbors not to join ICE because, they have been behaving abysmally, illegally. Yeah, it's the modern day Gestapo. It's the modern day KKK. Can't think of enough shitty things about them. Can't say enough shitty things about them. Triska, welcome over to Twitch, Triska. Do you think Republicans turn against Trump before the midterms given results of recent elections? I am skeptical that the Republican Party at large will ever turn away from Trump until it is made crystal clear to them that he is politically toxic. Still off on TikTok. But yeah, I think it's likely that they're going to lose some voters, but I do not believe that, again, the Republican Party at large is going to be moving away from him. The electoral success of the Democratic Party needs to be so massive for the Republican Party to start moving away from him. If you look at the success of the Democratic Party in 2008, where they had a supermajority in the Senate, they had the House, they had the White House, it looked as though some Republican politicians were going to sort of like abandon their extremist positions and start working with him. And then the billionaire class kind of like stood in and said, no, you're only going to be, you are only going to be obstructing everything that Obama tries to do. And it worked, Democrats lost Congress after like 8 months. And then for the rest of Obama's 2 terms, he, didn't have control over Congress and was not able to sit Supreme Court justices at the end. And then, Trump and the Republican Party fucking kicked ass in 2016. So yeah, if the decisive wins of the Democratic Party were not successful at getting Republican politicians to stop being psychotic in 2008, I am skeptical that it will stop them from being psychotic in 2026 or 2028. Triska says, I got booted from your TikTok. I got booted from TikTok. All right, Muzz King, welcome. Average Joe, just got a class. Is it bad that I enjoyed Crash Out Jared from the end of yesterday's live stream? Oh, I suppose it's probably pretty entertaining for you guys, but for me it was very frustrating. I actually went back and I rewatched it just because I was like, boy oh boy was I out of pocket. I really need to make sure that I stay calm going forward. At the moment I am currently booted off of TikTok again for misinformation, waiting to see how my appeal works out. But yeah, it's the same old shit time and time again. To everybody else, welcome to Ask Me Anything About Politics. My name is Jared, and I'm here to answer all your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, be you left-wing or right-wing. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. I know it can feel like trying to learn a new language. So this is the show where you can ask all of your questions about politics, and, you're not going to get judged for not knowing things or... yeah, it looks like my live access is not going to be restored until the 28th at 11:45 a.m. So it is possible that I might not be able to do any live streams for the rest of the week. I don't know if I get enough engagement on TikTok and YouTube and Substack for me to be able to continue doing these live streams. All right, Average Joe says, sometimes people need yelled at regardless. I hope you're in a better mood today. I am in a better mood today. Triska says, are we all going to march on Saturday? I will 100% be there on Saturday. So, catch me on my live stream. I live streamed the last time I went to No Kings, and I thought that was really fun. So I will most likely be doing that again. Ecuadorian says, I'll never forgive America for what they've done. I hope that you forgive Americans, Ecuadorian, but I understand if you are dogmatic about hating the American government. I believe that the American government needs to do more work to make up for their multitude of sins. So yeah. Yeah, to everybody else, welcome to Ask Me Anything About Politics. My name is Jared. I'm here to answer all your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated. And you know what I might do, since I'm here and I'm waiting for questions to come in, I'm going to let my agency know that I have been booted for misinformation. They have never been able to get me unbooted any faster, but it's at least another thing that I can try. Alrighty, to everybody else, welcome to Ask Me Anything About Politics. My name is Jared. I'm here to answer any questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, be you left-wing or right-wing. I'm here to answer all of your questions about politics. This is what actual censorship looks like, says Average Joe. Not asking Twitter to take down Hunter Biden's dog. 100% accurate. All right, let's get to my Talenture agency. All right, open up a ticket. Band support. Okay, let's see. Okay. Because my live stream is politically left wing, I have regularly been reported for things that are not true, like misinformation and bullying. At the moment, I have been banned until the 28th of March. Unjustly. It seems a little dramatic. Maybe I'll change that. Do I have any questions that I need to answer? Triska says, have you considered making a backup account on TikTok? You know, I never thought it was worth it because, you know, all that was happening was people were sort of like throttling my TikTok. You know, I was taken off momentarily and then would usually win my appeals. But yeah, you know, I don't know. It's starting to look more and more like it might be necessary. Ecuadorian says, once Trump is out, can we please hold him accountable for what he did? We can if people do the work. Ecuadorian, we can if people do the work. All right, let me continue with my message. Because my lectures bullying like we have regularly been reported for things that are not true, like misinformation and bullying. At the moment, I have been banned. I have been erroneously banned until the 28th of March. Apparently, I do not know how to spell erroneously until the 28th of March. I submitted an appeal and it was rejected. I have a regular streaming schedule that is being interrupted. So if y'all could get the ban removed, I would appreciate it. Again, I have not done what they claim I have done to justify my being banned. All right. Let's see here. Do we have any questions to get to? All right, Ecuadorian says you should just make another account until TikTok gives up. You know, I'm curious to see how easy it would be for me to do that. I'm gonna experiment with it right now. All right, Average Joe says, do you watch or listen to Gianmarco Soresi's podcast? This week's was a good one. You know, I don't. I like Gianmarco. I've worked with him a couple of times. My what do you call it? Okay, let's see here. Switch accounts. Log into. I would need to start a new account in order for that to do that, and I don't know if I can do it from here. Let's see here. Yeah, I would have to change. I'll have to wait until I get offline probably to do that. Okay, Ecuadorian says, that's what I do. It just to push the people at TikTok's buttons. I think it's funny. I got this. Says, why does it seem like Trump is beholden to Israel? Mass deportations cost too much and are unpopular, but this war is even less popular and more costly. It makes no sense. I mean, it does make sense if you look at the various incentive structures for Trump. You know, if if you are a corrupt person, then you engage with and worked with other corrupt autocrats. He's also extremely easy to manipulate if you flatter him or give him a bunch of money, the way that Israel and the Saudis and the Qataris and the Emiratis have. Trump is a racist, and he views bombing and murdering brown people, regardless of if they are innocent civilians or military, as being completely neutral to positive activity. There are people within the Republican coalition of politicians who have other motivations for wanting to support Israel. For example, being religious extremists who believe that Israel needs to take over the Middle East to bring about the rapture. That is a real thing that existed within the Republican Party. The Republican Party is beholden to the military-industrial complex. A lot of them make a lot of money from that. People like Lindsey Graham, for example. So Trump working with those people, being manipulated by those people, and being manipulated by his own corrupt and racist desires, like, it makes perfect sense. He does not give a shit about people getting hurt and killed. He does not give a shit about the people of Iran or Israel or even America. If it redounds to Trump's benefit, if he thinks it would be fun or cool, he's going to do it regardless of how dangerous or expensive or unproductive. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. All right, Average Joe says, if you want to conversate instead of Q&A, let me know. We have our Discord conversation. I'm going to say maybe to that, Average Joe. I do have a couple more things that I want to try at the moment. Let me see what I can do here. Violence community comments. Okay, we got a couple of messages here. Ooh, message requests. Anything debating? Reminder to check out my video. All right, I will do that. Anything debating? Let's see here. Okay, no questions at the moment. So we will go back to work. You're anti-illegal immigration. I don't know how anybody can disagree that people who came here legally are supposed to be removed. Homicide rates are at the lowest in the past 125 years. Do you believe that homicide rates are low because of mass deportations? I do not believe that that is an accurate statistic. Alrighty, let's see here. Can you maybe consider reposting my new video? All right, let me see here. Can I start a new account from here? I'd have to log out. Yeah, I might as well. Who the fuck cares? Okay, I got this. As I appreciate the honest answer, and I totally agree about Trump not caring for anyone else. God bless. God bless you. I got this. Average Joe says, only because you lost your primary audience, otherwise I wouldn't have suggested it. You don't have to worry about suggesting it, but man, I do not consider that to be, you know, what do you call it? I do not consider that to be untoward, you know? Let's see here. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay, do we have any questions? Triska says, do you think anything will be done based on Jack Smith's investigation findings? We have to wait until he's out of office, question mark? So yes, there is the Office of Legal Counsel memo saying that sitting presidents cannot be indicted. And additionally, so long as Republicans are in charge of Congress, they're not going to do anything about that until even if we have Democrats in, the majority in Congress and in the White House, there is still a psychotic right-wing Supreme Court that could potentially be either a roadblock or, what do you call it? Just stopping all accountability from occurring. Okay, let's see here. Okay, well, I guess I need to use a different email then. Wait a minute. Huh? That can't be right. All right, let's see here. Still no questions to get to. Okay, let's see here. It appears as though signing in with a different account. Oh wait, do I? Okay. I actually did have a dummy account already. Okay, Tiana Kaczynski says, yo back. All right, John Abbott says there are signs that Trump may be turning on Miller because of how bad Miller's agenda items are, hurting Trump's popularity. If he gives Miller the boot, do you think any of the ICE CBP stuff will get better since he's the driving force behind it, or do you think it has become a self-sustaining problem? Ooh, that's a really good question. If Miller, I really do believe that Miller is kind of like the driving force behind the most extreme actions of ICE and CBP. So I do think that things will get better. I mean, marginally, things got better when we replaced Bovino with Holman. And marginally, things will get better when we get rid of Stephen Miller. So long as we don't have an equally psychotic, racist in charge. But I don't know. I think that Stephen Miller is doing way too much for Trump. He's doing too much work for him that Trump doesn't want to do for him to ever separate from Stephen Miller. Like, I just don't see. I see him putting more pressure on stealing the election than trying to appeal to America. It makes way more sense that he would do that, in my opinion. Okay. Excellent question. Excellent question. Okay. Just backing up. Just backing up Jarrett. Jarrett. Isn't this fun, guys? Creating a new fucking profile because of right-wing psychopaths. It's possible. It is possible that, that nobody even watches, once I start doing this, Average Joe, Tiana Kaczynski says, what are we discussing? Well, you can ask me anything that you like about politics. My expertise is domestic American politics, but you can ask other questions and we'll see. Alrighty, Mr. Sidious, greetings to you. John Abbott says, everything I've seen from locals in Portland, Minneapolis, and other places say that things didn't actually get better under Homan. They have just been much more successful in suppressing information. Well, that is upsetting. That is very upsetting to hear that. You know what? All right, I rescind my previous statement that things were better. All right, let's see here. Average Joe says, I don't think Miller's doing anything for Trump. He was crazy before 2016. I don't know. I think that Miller has sold Trump on racism and fascism. I think that Miller has said to Trump, you don't have to worry about what you do. I will lead the way in making sure that you and Republicans don't ever have to face fair elections or accountability ever again. And you don't like brown people? I don't like brown people. I'll get rid of them. You don't have to think about it. That is what I think Stephen Miller's role is in the Trump administration. And he's also kind of like using that to, consolidate power under himself as well. All right. Tiana Kaczynski says, how about Iran? Happy to talk about that. The stupid fucking war that Trump started in Iran is expensive. It is costing human lives unconscionably, barbarically. It was poorly planned, poorly thought out, no clear objectives in mind. You know, the catastrophes that were the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan were so much better planned than this. We're going to be begging for them to we're going to be begging for Iran to just be a catastrophe like Iraq and Afghanistan. It is such an unbelievable fucking self-own. This war has done nothing but enrich China, Iran, and Russia. You know, all of the adversarial nations are now stronger because of the stupid fucking war. Americans are fucking starving to death. They can't afford their health care, but they want 200 billion just so they can bomb more brown people, and then nothing gets accomplished and our gas gets more expensive. God damn. So fucking stupid. Ooh, ready. John Evans says, my son got off work early, so I got a vote. Hope this all gets resolved and I see you tomorrow. Yeah, me too, John Abbott. Thank you for being here. Okay, let's see here. Scrolling up, scrolling up, scrolling up. Okay. Did that work? Didn't look like it worked. There appear to be issues. Mr. Sidious, I tend to disagree with the fascist part. Fascism isn't just racism. It's totalitarian state with hands in every industry, planning, third economic way, and militarism. Trump is just racist wannabe authoritarian. Completely disagree, Mr. Sidious. Look at the way that Trump is consolidating power. Look at the way that he is trying to stretch his authority over the various branches of the government, eliminating checks and balances, eliminating balance of power. Look at the way that he is de facto taking over media industries. Look at the way that he is de facto trying to take over higher education. Look at the way that every problem is being caused by a marginalized group as opposed to him and his buddies. Like, it is straight up fascism. Like, it is there's no two bones about it. Like, there's something like a 14-point checklist of things that dictators and authoritarians do, and Trump is doing every single fucking one of them. So yeah, could not disagree with that line more. All right, let's see here. Alrighty. Okay, Tiana says, what do you mean by adversaries getting stronger like Russia and China? So because let's see here. Because of the closing of the Strait of Hormuz by the Iranians, the America and its allies are having to pay a lot more for gas. In order to undo some of that financial pressure, the Trump administration has removed sanctions against Russia that were in place from when Russia illegally attacked Ukraine. So now, where Russia was struggling economically, they are now making just a shit ton of money, as is Iran. Iran is also trading, is exclusively allowing trade to happen through the Strait of Hormuz from its allies like China. And so where American industries are being stymied by the Strait of Hormuz being closed, China is able to ship through there. China is able to get gas through there. Additionally, because China is investing so aggressively in renewable energy, they are the only ones who are not being hurt, or they're being hurt so much less by having so much less access to fossil fuels. Ergo, they're fucking kicking our ass. Additionally, this whole fucking war is an albatross around the neck of America, and America is China's main rival in, global dominance. And so, again, just strengthening China. Okay, Average Joe says, didn't Trump start investing in tech companies on behalf of the federal government? I mean, kind of, sort of. What you're saying is 100% accurate, but I'm not sure if I would put it that way exactly. Okay, Mr. City says, tend to disagree. Did that one already. Average did the one already. Mr. City says that is the authoritarian part. Basically trying to make state more than individual, but when it comes to industry, does he tries to nationalize oil? No, because those people pay him. Well, Average Joe pointed out that Trump has demanded that certain tech companies give a portion of themselves to the federal government. So, yeah, 100%. Average Joe, you were right about that. I was wrong to pick nits on that. But yeah, that is probably the best argument for Mr. Sidious. Mr. Sidious says, one more thing, racism wasn't core belief in fascism. Germany, on the other hand, is right on spot. Yeah, I don't know if you need racism. You just need to demagogue a specific group, and that can be racist, it can be homophobic, it can be misogynistic. There's a bunch of isms that could be. Average Joe says nationalizing an industry isn't inherently authoritarianism. Authoritarian, the U.S. did this to manufacturing during World War II. Yeah, Mr. Sidious, again, I don't think that this one piece being missed. First of all, I don't think the one piece is missing. Second of all, I don't think that one piece, even if it was missing, I don't think that would be the thing that disqualified Trump from being a fascist authoritarian. D, good to see you again. Says Iran is allowing neutral ships through if they pay in Chinese currency. I did not know that. That's interesting. Tyro says, what do you like about Katie Porter? I don't have any new information for you about Katie Porter. I can only tell you that when she was in the House, I thought she did a bang-up job with her fucking whiteboard during congressional hearings. And so I was like, I want to see what she does. I want to see what she's able to accomplish going forward. Tiana says, so it's pretty much Trump's fault, to be frank. 100%. The buck stops there, man. Mr. Sidious says, well, do they pay him because he owns them, or do they own him? And that is hush money. Ugh. I mean, 6 of one, half dozen the other, Mr. Sidious. It all seems basically the same outcome. Is Trump a Russian agent, or is he just acting like a Russian agent? Like... Okay. Okay. All right, Mr. Studios, I was trying to say if we agree on Trump being racist authoritarian, he is closer to Schnazi than fascist, but I nitpick here. I'm sure you're going to have some people that are going to really enjoy picking nits with you in my chat, Mr. Sidious, and especially if you join my Discord, you will find some friends to pick nits with. Okay, Tiana says, do you think Israel is to blame as well by forcing his hand? I don't think Israel the country, but I think Israel the government, 100%. Netanyahu and his right-wing coalition are part of a group of people that are pressuring Trump into doing the things that he is doing. Okay, Average Joe says they pay for access and favors, i.e. monopolistic mergers. Mr. City says, well, the question is more in line, is Trump the main head, or does the big industries call the shots? Ooh, yeah, I don't know if it's as clear-cut as either or. I think it is a more complicated relationship than that. Where you see sometimes Trump pushing back against authoritarians that he's in league with, like Vladimir Putin. It's like, which one of us gets to be the person who calls themselves the ultimate dictator of our relationship, you know? And the same way, like when a bunch of like douchey frat bros kind of like bump chests together, there's not like a set leader. It's just kind of like a, you know, who gets to decide that they're the alpha today, kind of a thing. Okay, let's see here. Where was I? Ugh, I don't even know where that thing is. All right, nailed it. Okay, Tiana says, so you don't think Palestine was occupied? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Tiana. Is that what your name is? Tiana? Yeah. Okay. Tyro says, down on TikTok again? Yes, and this time it appears it'll be for a while. Mr. City says, well, we need to know our enemy to strike the right place, therefore my question. Oh no, hold on a second. This isn't gonna work. This isn't gonna work. God damn it. Yeah. So yeah, let me see here. Mr. Sidious, if the enemy is a coalition of billionaires, do we need to have one specific billionaire to blame in order to, you know, what do you call it? In order to fight back? I don't think so. I think it's possible to have a bunch of different people that we are struggling against. Okay. Tiana says, do you believe Israel has a right to exist? The question of whether Israel has a right to exist has become very weighted. Here is the way that I prefer to phrase this. Whether the creation of Israel was a good thing or a bad thing, I have no idea. It is clear that Israel has been a very bad neighbor in that region, particularly to the Palestinians. There are innocent civilians living in Israel, though. And so, how do we rectify those sins of Israel currently and in the past? I do not believe the solution is ethnically cleansing the Middle East of Israelis. I think the solution is trying to make Israel a better neighbor, you know. And that's a little, I know that sounds a little, you know, milquetoast considering the shit that Israel has been up to, the Netanyahu government has been up to, but you know, that means America should not be sending them any more money and weapons. That means that we should be putting pressure on them until they start, you know, respecting the human rights and dignity of their neighboring countries. And that's not just Palestine. That's obviously Lebanon and Iran, etc. Okay. Mr. City says, because I don't believe Trump is calling the shots. Trump is only making promises to get elected and then do whatever the masterminds who run the shows want. Disagree, Mr. Sidious. I think that I think Trump does have some agency. I do not think that, the Koch brothers are telling Trump to build a ballroom. I don't think that the Koch brothers are, going after, James Comey or Letitia James, or trying to steal ballots from Georgia to prove that the 2020 election was stolen. Like, he is as much in the driver's seat as the billionaires who are behind the scenes. I don't think that it's one driver's seat. I think it's like, those cars that you learn driving in, where the passenger also has a steering wheel and a brake pedal. I think it's more of that kind of a thing. All right, everybody. So this was an interesting one. Obviously, we met some really cool people. Tiana says, "So you're saying two-state solution again?" Um, Normally I would, but if you talk to people who are experts in that region, they will tell you that Israel has successfully done enough damage to both the territorial area of the Palestinians and the relationship with the Palestinians that a two-state solution is virtually impossible. So there are a lot of problems that we need to solve before we can address what does the state of Israel and what does the state of Palestine look like going forward. But it feels a little cart before the horse, but it also feels a little milk toasty to say two-state solution over and over again. We need to acknowledge the reality, the logistical reality, that Netanyahu and his far right-wing coalition has made a two-state solution virtually impossible. So yeah, I think that we need to acknowledge that and not just, like copy paste over and over again, two-state solution, two-state solution. But the goal of the two-state solution, where the people of Palestine have their own territory and they have sovereignty and they're not being subjected to apartheid by the state of Israel, that is still the goal. How we get there, that's an open question, I hope that answers your question there. Tyro says, when will the other Dems drop for the governor's race? Hopefully soon. I'm afraid it's too many of them and they'll split the votes or some. I completely agree, and we got to do that. All right, Mr. City says he does have some wiggle room, but I don't believe Venezuela or Iran was his idea. I agree that it wasn't his idea, but I think he wanted to do that. Like, I think he likes sending the military in, especially when he knows he can murder some brown people, Alrighty, everybody. I'm going to get out of here. Obviously, this was a weird one, but it looks like we made a couple of new friends in Tiana and Mr. Sidious. And, great to see the regulars, Average Joe and Tyro and John Abbott and everybody. Regular streaming schedule is Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. This week is going to be weird because, again, I've been booted off of TikTok, and that's where 90% of my comments come from. So maybe we'll continue. Maybe we'll stream on Thursday and Friday. I have no idea. We'll definitely be back on Saturday for the No Kings live stream. Yeah, just do the work, everybody. Tell your friends how great the live stream is. Tell people to watch on Twitch in case they get kicked off of TikTok again. And I will see you